Most people don't realize this, but time is the only real currency you've got. Not money, not status, not followers, time, because once it's gone, it's gone. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose a business and rebuild it. You can lose friends and find new ones, but the one thing you'll never be able to buy back, no matter how rich you get, is time. And here's the harsh truth: most people have absolutely no control over their time. They wake up when an alarm clock tells them to. They go to a job because someone else expects them to. They come home exhausted, they eat, they scroll on their phone for an hour, and then they go to bed just to repeat the same cycle the next day. That's not life, that's survival on autopilot. When I say control over your time, I'm talking about the ability to wake up and decide, today, I'm working on something I care about. Or today, I'm not working at all because I don't need to. That's real wealth, that's real power. It's not about having millions in the bank, it's about having freedom of choice. You see, the reason people chase money so hard is because they think money will buy them freedom. But that's only half the story. Money gives you the option to control your time, but if you don't know how to use that control, you'll still be trapped. I've met people who make 10 grand a month but still live like they're broke because they've built their entire lives around someone else's schedule, someone else's expectations. They've got money, but they're still slaves, just slaves with nicer cars. When I was starting out, I didn't have money, but I made a decision early. I wasn't going to trade my time for someone else's dream. Everyone thought I was insane to drop out of school. Teachers, family, friends, they all told me I was throwing my life away. But what they didn't understand was that I wasn't chasing comfort, I was chasing control. I didn't want to live on anyone else's clock. When you control your time, everything changes. You stop rushing. You stop compromising. You stop living in reaction mode, constantly responding to problems, notifications, and other people's demands. You move into creation mode, designing your day, your work, and your life the way you want them to be. You start to experience what most people never do: peace. Think about it. Most anxiety, most frustration, most burnout, they all come from not having control over your time. You're anxious because you're late. You're frustrated because you don't have enough hours in the day. You're burned out because your schedule doesn't belong to you. The moment you take that control back, the noise quiets down. You realize you don't need to rush, you just need to decide. Now, control over your time doesn't come for free. You have to earn it. You earn it by making sacrifices that most people aren't willing to make. While others are out partying, you're building. While others are complaining, you're learning. While others waste time, you're using it intentionally, and that's not glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's just discipline, but that discipline compounds. It buys you leverage, and one day, you wake up and realize you don't have to ask permission anymore. Here's something I want you to understand. Freedom of time doesn't mean you never work. It doesn't mean you sit on a beach doing nothing all day. That's the fantasy people sell you. Real freedom is having the option to work, not the obligation. It's doing what you love because you choose to, not because you're forced to. And ironically, once you get to that point, you usually end up working harder than ever, but it's different, it's on your terms. When you start controlling your time, you also start controlling your priorities. You stop spending hours with people who drain you. You stop saying yes to things that don't move you forward. You start protecting your energy like it's your last dollar, because it kind of is. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you're saying no to something important. You're trading a piece of your freedom for nothing. People talk about financial freedom like it's the ultimate goal, but what they really want is time freedom. Because think about it, what's the point of making $100,000 a month if you can't even take a day off to see your family? What's the point of building a business if you've just built yourself another cage? You see it all the time, entrepreneurs who are miserable because they've created a system that runs on them. That's not freedom, that's self-imposed slavery. Real success is when you can structure your life so that money works for you, not the other way around. When your business runs without you, when you can decide to take a week off and nothing collapses, when you can spend an afternoon reading, traveling, thinking, or just doing nothing, and it doesn't feel like a waste, it feels like ownership. And you don't need to be a millionaire to get there. You just need to start designing your days differently. Set boundaries, cut out the distractions, prioritize things that matter, not things that are urgent. Learn to say no, protect your mornings, automate what you can, delegate what you can't. Your time is too expensive to waste on nonsense, because here's the truth. You don't get control of your time by waiting for it. You take it, you claim it through intention, through discipline, through clarity. Every hour of your day is either working for you or against you, and the difference is whether you're in control or not. When you get to the point where your time belongs to you, that's when you start living. You feel lighter, more present, more grounded. You start appreciating small things again, a walk, a conversation, a moment of silence because you're not rushing to the next thing. You've escaped the hamster wheel that everyone else is stuck on. That's what I mean when I say money isn't the goal, control is. Because control over your time is the foundation for everything else. Without it, you'll always be reacting, always chasing, always running out of hours. But with it, you can finally build a life that feels like yours. And that's the ultimate flex, not a car, not a watch, not a number in your bank account, but waking up on a Monday morning and realizing you don't have to ask anyone what to do next. That's freedom. That's control, and that's worth more than any amount of money. Control over your mind is the foundation of everything. You can have money, freedom, and opportunity sitting right in front of you, but if you can't control your thoughts, emotions, and impulses, you'll throw it all away. That's why I always say, the biggest battlefield isn't your business, it's not your finances, it's not even the competition, it's your own head. Most people are prisoners of their mind, and the saddest part is, they don't even realize it. Their mind runs them, it tells them what to do, how to feel, what to think, and they obey without question. They think they're in control because they're making choices, but those choices are just reactions to emotion, to fear, to ego, to distraction. That's not control, that's chaos wearing a mask of comfort. The truth is, your mind can be your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. It can build you into someone unstoppable, or it can keep you average forever. And the difference between the two is discipline. See, people love to talk about motivation, but motivation is a scam. It's a fleeting emotion. It's the sugar high of personal development. You feel good for a moment, then crash back into the same old habits. Real control doesn't come from motivation. It comes from structure, from routine, from doing what you said you do long after the mood you said it in has disappeared. When I was younger, I used to think success was about hustle, outworking everyone, grinding 18 hours a day, no sleep, no breaks. And sure, that gets you somewhere, but what really separates the greats from the rest isn't who works the hardest, it's who can stay calm and focused when everything's falling apart. It's who can stay locked in when the results aren't showing yet. That's control. Control over your mind means you stop being a victim of circumstance. You stop saying things like, I can't focus, or I don't feel like it. You stop identifying with your emotions. Instead, you start observing them. You recognize that you're not your thoughts, you're the one watching them. And when you understand that, you become dangerous, because now, instead of reacting to every feeling, you can decide which ones to act on and which ones to ignore. Think about how much time people waste just being controlled by emotion. They get angry and they say something stupid. They get insecure and they sabotage their relationships. They get bored and they scroll for hours. They get scared and they quit. The moment you give in to those impulses, you're giving your power away, every time. If you can't control your mind, you'll never control your life. You'll always be ruled by dopamine hits, that quick pleasure you get from social media, junk food, gossip, or validation. The system is designed to keep you hooked on that. Every app, every notification, every ad, they're all competing for one thing, your attention. Because attention is power, and if they control your attention, they control you. That's why building mental control isn't optional anymore, it's survival. You need to protect your mind the same way you'd protect your money. Guard your input, be ruthless about what and who you allow into your mental space. Every piece of content you consume, every conversation you entertain, every habit you repeat, it's programming you, whether you realize it or not. When I started taking this seriously, my entire life shifted. I stopped scrolling. I stopped letting negativity live rent free in my head. I started journaling every morning, meditating, reading, and surrounding myself with people who demanded more of me. It wasn't about pretending to be positive, it was about creating an environment that supported focus, discipline, and growth. And yeah, it's uncomfortable at first, because control means saying no a lot. Saying no to distractions, to temporary pleasures, to people who drain your energy. It means being bored sometimes. It means being alone with your thoughts, which is something most people can't handle because they've spent their entire lives running from silence. But that silence, that stillness, that's where clarity lives. The more control you have over your mind, the less control the world has over you. You stop reacting to every little thing. Someone insults you. You don't care, a deal falls through, you stay calm, you miss a goal, you analyze and move forward. You don't get thrown around by external circumstances anymore because your center is solid. You've trained your mind to respond with logic instead of emotion. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about mastering them. You can feel anger without being consumed by it. You can feel fear without letting it dictate your choices. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. That's real strength, not pretending to be emotionless, but having the awareness to experience emotions and still choose your response consciously. The more I've grown, the more I've realized that control over your mind is what separates people who make it from those who don't. Talent doesn't matter if you can't stay focused. Opportunities don't matter if you keep self-sabotaging. Even luck doesn't matter if you're too mentally weak to capitalize on it. Your external world will always be a reflection of your internal one. Chaos in your mind creates chaos in your life, and the opposite is also true. When your mind is disciplined, your world starts aligning. You make better decisions, you attract better people, you handle problems with grace. You start living intentionally instead of impulsively. You become proactive instead of reactive. But don't get it twisted, control isn't something you achieve once and then you're done. It's a daily battle. Every morning, your mind will test you. Do we really need to get up early today? Can't we skip the gym? Let's just relax. We've earned it. The weak version of you will always whisper excuses. Your job is to shut it down and act anyway. That's why rituals matter, routines matter. They're not about being robotic. They're about reinforcing the idea that you are in charge, not your emotions. Every time you stick to your plan despite resistance, you're building the muscle of mental control. And that's the muscle that will carry you when motivation fades, when things get hard, when no one's watching. At the end of the day, control over your mind is the ultimate form of freedom, because when you can master your inner world, nothing external can truly shake you. You stop being a leaf in the wind and become the wind itself. You move with intention, clarity, and peace, and that's when you realize that success, happiness, and freedom all start from the same place, the space between your ears. That's the real battlefield. Win there first, and you'll win everywhere else. When you've earned control over your time and your mind, there's one final level: control over your purpose. Because what's the point of freedom if you don't know what to do with it? You can have all the time in the world and complete mastery over yourself, but if you're not using that to build something that matters, you'll still feel empty. Freedom without direction is just drifting, and drifting is the fastest way to fall back into chaos. Purpose isn't something that magically appears one morning. It's something you choose. It's something you build through action, reflection, and pain. And the biggest lie society sells you is that purpose is supposed to find you. No, you find it, you create it, you decide what matters to you and then dedicate your life to it. But here's the catch: you can't discover your purpose if you don't have control. Most people never get there because their time and their mind are too occupied. They're so busy reacting to life that they never stop to ask, what do I actually want to do with this one life I've got? They wake up, go through routines they hate, chase things they don't care about, and then wonder why they feel lost. When you start controlling your purpose, you move differently. You stop chasing money for the sake of money. You stop doing things just because they look successful. You start asking deeper questions. Does this fulfill me? Does this align with who I want to become? Does this make an impact beyond me? That's when life starts to shift from survival to significance. I've been there, when everything looks good on paper, but something inside feels off. You've hit goals, you've made money, you've checked the boxes, but there's this quiet voice that keeps asking, is this it? And you try to silence it by working harder, buying more, distracting yourself, but it doesn't go away. Because purpose isn't found in accumulation, it's found in contribution. It's not about how much you can take from the world, it's about what you can build for it. Control over your purpose means having the clarity and conviction to say no to things that don't align with your mission, even when they're tempting. It's easy to chase opportunities. It's hard to walk away from ones that pay well but don't fulfill you. That's real strength, because you're not operating out of fear or scarcity anymore. You're operating from alignment. You know who you are, and you know what you stand for. When you live with purpose, your work becomes more than just work. It becomes an expression of who you are. You stop clocking in and out of life. You start living in flow. The hours blur because you're doing something that feels right, something that pulls you instead of pushes you. That's when success becomes effortless, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. But don't confuse purpose with passion. Passion is emotional, it's excitement, it's interest, it's fun. Purpose is deeper, it's responsibility, it's doing the work even when you're not in the mood. It's staying consistent even when the novelty fades. Passion makes you start, purpose makes you stay. And control over your purpose means you stay no matter how uncomfortable it gets. A lot of people avoid purpose because it demands sacrifice. The moment you choose a mission, you're also choosing what you'll give up. You're saying no to comfort, to distraction, to the illusion of a balanced life. Because when you're truly on purpose, balance doesn't exist, intensity does. You pour everything into it. You give it your all because you know it's the reason you're here. And that's not burnout, that's fulfillment. There's a difference between exhaustion from meaningless work and exhaustion from meaningful work. One drains you, the other grows you. One breaks you down, the other builds you up. When you're on purpose, even your struggles make sense. You can take hits, you can fail, you can lose, but you keep moving because you know why you're doing it. That's the thing most people miss. Purpose gives your pain a reason. Without it, every obstacle feels like punishment. With it, every obstacle feels like preparation. You start seeing challenges as part of the process instead of something to escape. That's when life becomes unshakable because purpose gives you endurance that comfort never can. When you control your purpose, you stop comparing yourself to everyone else. You realize their path isn't yours, their timeline isn't yours. You stop caring who's ahead or behind. You start caring only about whether you're aligned with your own mission. That's real freedom when external validation stops mattering because internal alignment is enough. And the irony is, once you live that way, the world starts to notice. Opportunities, connections, and success begin to chase you. Because purpose gives off a frequency, people feel it. They're drawn to someone who's clear, convicted, and unapologetically driven by something bigger than themselves. That's why purpose-driven people always seem magnetic. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're too busy building something real, but you can't fake it. You can't pretend to care about something just because it sounds good. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs people who mean it. And that's why control is everything, because you can't build a purposeful life from a distracted mind. You can't serve a mission if you're enslaved by comfort. You need control to stay aligned when it's easier to quit. Purpose doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's working in the dark while everyone else is celebrating. But it's also the most fulfilling thing you'll ever experience because you're not living for the weekend anymore. You're living for something eternal. At the end of the day, control over your purpose means you wake up with direction. You know what today is for, you know what tomorrow builds toward, and that clarity gives you energy that no caffeine, no paycheck, no vacation ever could. You stop drifting, you start leading, because money can buy you options, but only purpose can buy you meaning. And meaning is what keeps you alive long after the noise fades. That's what people remember. Not what you earned, but what you stood for. So if you want to build a life that actually matters, stop asking, how can I make more? And start asking, what's worth giving my life to? Then use your time, your mind, and your discipline to protect that mission at all costs. Because that's when you finally stop existing and start living. That's control, that's purpose, and that's the real definition of success.